this is Sean back again with All Things Black. I have some new friends here.
Hey, I'm Eddie.
And
Okay, I'm brother Willie Muhammad, New Orleans native. I'm an author. I have some books on relationships. So if you go on Amazon, it's titled "How to Get the Love You Desire," and some videos on YouTube as well. So I'm excited for this opportunity.
okay, and we'll put the link under the video too, so y'all can go check that out. Okay. All right. So today, we are going to talk about colorism in the Black community.
Hmm.
So our first question. Okay.
Okay.
The first question is, what does the word colorism mean to you?
Go ahead, my brother.
Colorism to me is basically um, treating someone differently or treating them badly or someone having to work harder basically just because their skin is darker.
Yeah. Okay.
That's basically
Yeah.
colorism.
I mean, and to add on what our brother said, I see colorism as like the mistreatment or even preferential treatment of somebody because of their skin color. And it's primarily when we think about colorism, it's something that takes place within we look in the Black community, and it's a byproduct of white supremacy and racism. And you know, I recently had the opportunity to watch a what is it? Blackish episode is about colorism. And
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
that episode got me to realize it made for the first time in my life, it made me think about how colorism affects our brothers and sisters who are light skinned. And I hadn't really thought about it like that.
Okay. All right. What are some examples of colorism?
Um, well, I guess one example of colorism that I have that's kind of outside of the Black community. Um, I have a couple of Asian friends, they're actually Filipino, and one of my Asian friends, she's a light-skinned Filipino, and she has a dark-skinned grandma. And her grandma was saying that, oh, she was just so happy that she was a lighter skinned Filipino because I guess in the Philippines with the lighter skin, she's looked at as a princess basically, as if she was darker skinned, she would be looked at as like a field worker or less than just because her skin is lighter, you know?
Yeah. I went to school in Southeast Asia for a few months in Thailand, and they have a big problem with colorism there. Like all their lotions have bleaching creams in it. They have billboards everywhere that say stuff about bleaching. And then it's like really hot over there, but you'll see people, like the school I went to, you see people with umbrellas. It's like the middle of the day because they didn't want to get darker. So, and then over there, like the darker skinned people are considered like the workers, and like the lighter skinned people are the more like affluent people. And even if you like when you go out and look at the world down there, when you go in like the malls, or if you're more like so towards Bangkok and places like that, you'll see more lighter skinned people who are like doing these like enjoyable things like being at the mall and and like that. And you do actually see more darker skinned people doing the manual jobs in Thailand because they're kind of like regulated to that is being living there. So it's a good point.
And in the Blackish episode, they brought that up. I had seen images of people in some Asian countries where you ever seen like those visors that people
Yeah,
have to block out sun, but
yeah,
they had them crumbling across their face, and
yeah.
I just thought like, yo, they're just going to the extreme. But according to the episode that and some other stuff that I've watched, that they actually do that as a way to prevent themselves from becoming darker, right? And what that
Mhm.
stems from is just what this world, the stigmatism and the demonization that has taken place around being of a darker hue and of dark skin. And they really flipped it, and I think it really began with the whole thing about this white Jesus and white is right and white is more attractive. So they're demonizing
Yeah.
skin, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And uh colorism even kind of runs deeper than just color of skin. You know, it even goes to hair type. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
know you might growing
Yeah.
up, you know what I'm saying, good hair, bad hair type
Yeah.
thing. You know
Right.
what I'm
Right.
saying?
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. Even the way that we talk, you know what I'm saying? Talking white, talking black, you know, colorism, it kind of goes color and then that type of culture, you know.
Right.
So it kind of goes a little deeper,
Right.
which is crazy.
I mean, we even have like featureism, like having like more black features is, you know, our nose, the bigger nose or the bigger lips. Those are things that are like frowned upon too. So that was a really good point. Texturism is a big one. The good hair, the bad hair. Um, I've even seen people like in my study that I'm doing on like dating preferences. A guy say like, "Oh, well, I'll date anyone, as long as, any color. They just gotta have the good hair." So it's different. Like there's some people who are colorists. There's some people who prefer a certain type of hair. So it's a lot of moving parts. So that was a good point. All right.
Yeah.
So I'll ask this question. It's kind of two part. Why do you believe people have negative attitudes about dark skin, and why do you believe people have negative attitudes about light skin? If you think they do, so whoever.
Uh, it stems from what the false ideology that has shaped this world, especially in America, but all over the world, which is supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
So if everything white is supreme, everything white is the best, then what about everything that's non-white? And so their historians have shown that when the people are go through oppression, they begin to start taking on the ways of their oppressor. And you see that among black people with our hair, as brother was saying, with our facial features. And now you're starting to see it. It's subtle, but if you don't know what it is, you don't recognize that, yo, that's colorism. When I say, when we think about like how they would do Drake, oh, look at Drake, he light skinned it, always. That was colorism. But we just thought it was like, yo, black team, light skin team, dark skin. But it's really colorism, and it's really a descendant and a child of white supremacy.
Yeah, it's white. I mean, light is associated with femininity, so that's where that comes from. Yeah, for girls and like guys, and dark is associated with masculinity. That's why you have dark skinned girls who colorism most heavily affects, being called, manly and things like that. Because dark is for men and light is for women. As far as the positive trait to have for each. So that's a good point.
Yeah. I think the brother was right. It definitely stems from white supremacy and a need to kind of feed the fire of hate for ourselves and love for them and their culture, I think. Because I mean, I have no problem with light skinned people just for no reason, but I think from slavery, house nigga, field nigga, that same mentality that they've been feeding over and over again. Like the house nigga see the field nigga out there working, he sees him. The white man is feeding that, oh, he's a savage, she's a savage, ugly, trash, whatever, and then feeding the field nigga that thing like, oh, he thinks he's better than you, he's such and such, and it's the same thing, just kind of fed over into today's world. So it's kind of to keep us divided, then kind of make us want to say the European standard of color, whatever, is the goal, and we should keep trying to reach that goal. You know,
Right.
so that's the basis of it.
All right. What role do you believe traditional media has in perpetuating colorist stereotypes?
It plays a big role, and
Huge. Yeah.
traditional media is one of the major avenues that has helped to spread colorism. Think about it. Because as growing up as young children and even as adults and teenagers, we're comparing, oftentimes our brothers and sisters who felt bad because they have a darker hue are comparing themselves to something that they saw on television. Even when you saw the white dog test, the black dog test, and even with the rap videos where they were, well, one of the, I think it was Tory Lanez was talking about how he called off a video shoot because he saw all of the women that they called to be a part of the video shoot, and there was a diversity of colors, but only the ones that were selected were the light-skinned women. So it helps to promote the sickness of white supremacy. Then it's child colorism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, he answered that question perfectly. I mean, the only thing I can add to that is that the media has kind of like changed the roles of certain individuals throughout history, you know, such as white Jesus and white uh, white Egyptians, Tarzan, even Betty Boop was portrayed from a black woman, you know. So that type of thing, just how we haven't been portrayed in the media historically, you know.
Another example I'll bring up is like with television shows, when you have your families, your usual family that you see on television with black TV shows is a dark-skinned dad, a light-skinned wife, and you have the two little kids. Mostly, if it's two little kids, the daughter will be lighter skinned and the son will be darker skinned. And then I can specifically think of like two different shows where and then also the light skinned wife will have a dark skinned best friend. So I can call out right now Martin, and I can call out, there's a show right now called Marlon on Netflix. The dark skinned best friend is always the butt of the jokes. She always, in both those shows I just listed, she's always the butt of the jokes. She's called nappy headed. She's directly different from the light skinned wife. The dark skinned best friend always dates. She can't find a man. She yeah, just overall has problems dating, which is like completely different from the light skinned wife who is a wife. And in the case of Marlon, she's the ex-wife, but she doesn't date at all. But her best friend is always going out on dates. Yeah, she can't find a man. And then again, I'll say she's always the butt of the jokes. And it's the same as with Martin. Um, the best friend was always the butt of the joke. And in the show I'm talking about, Marlon, she's called nappy headed, she's called ghetto, she's joked about how she can't find a man. Um, so she's overall just used as somebody to degrade, and lighter skinned women aren't used in those same roles. Rarely do you ever see on TV with black television shows a dark skinned black family, and that's what the family is. You may see a dark skinned black man, but that's not what the entire family is going to be, because that's not what the media wants people to see. I guess I don't know, but
And if you look at it, another thing, think about the national news agencies we have, CNN, all of them. You can't think of a dark-skinned news correspondent. Most of them, they are very light-skinned, or they're kind of like they're mixed, right?
Yeah.
And you notice even with the commercials, and you're starting to see that, and that's because who's actually selecting these people to actually be, and it's white folks.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, they're in control. They're in control of most of like the. I mean, even when you think about like black movies or black TV shows, there's a lot of white people involved. And in their preference, like with white colorism, their preference is light skinned black people. Like a lot of studies have shown that they feel safer around light skinned black people.
Right.
They see them as smarter. So white people prefer light skinned black people. And as far as even in preferences in dating, you'll find that like black women, both light and dark, usually, based on what I've studied, prefer dark skinned black men. But white women prefer light skinned black men. And that's because with white people, period, prefer lighter black people. So they're in control of most of these movies and television shows. They're like the executives on these, shows. So if you wonder why you're always seeing like mixed people or light skinned people, like you said on the newscast, and it's because it's mostly just not controlled by us. I don't know if it would be any different if it were controlled by us, but
Yeah, unfortunately, we got the same mindset as them. So what we have to do as Black people, we have to grow in loving ourselves, and we have to listen to that. We have to. The way we can begin to start doing that is by learning our history, learning about what actually happened to us, to see why we have these things. Because some people think that we just have these ideas about skin color on our own, and we
no.
know that we've been conditioned, and we kind of like hypnotized. We in a trance, so we need somebody to wake us up to see, okay, this is why you think that way. Now after learning this, everybody still has their preference, but if we start saying I like light-skinned women because they treat me better, then that's a sickness. If I like dark-skinned women, when we start using the color as a basis of right and wrong behavior, then that's a problem.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What role do you guys believe colorism plays in dating and marriage, if you believe it plays any role?
Go ahead, my brother.
Colorism in dating and marriage. I mean, definitely in choosing. I mean, that we already brought up. It definitely plays a role in how we choose who we date, and that instant thought. Like some people won't even give a darker person a chance just because they're like already turned off. Don't even want to go through all of that. And that's just what we create in our mind based on what we've been taught and what we see and what they feed to us subconsciously. Uh, yeah, that's all I got right there.
Yeah.
And in regards to some people, the roles that they play in marriage is that sometimes the selection of our mate was based upon colorism.
Yeah.
People say, I want a light skinned woman, I want a dark skinned man, I want this. So it's based upon that. And some people, you heard people say, I want a light skinned person so my children can be light skinned and they can have wavy hair. So, and then what happens is, yeah, and so then what happens with that, so you are building a marriage on something that's really false. So what begins to happen then when we come to find out I didn't choose you primarily because I loved you. I really choose you because it was you fit into this sick image of what is attractive that I've learned from this world.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So here's a question. What do you believe is the difference between colorism and preference? Is there a difference? Whoever.
The only difference between colorism and preference is with colorism, that's what you're basing your decision off of. You're not. I can say I don't like dark-skinned girls, or I prefer to date light-skinned girls, but I just can't say it off of. I can't make that generalized statement, kind of. You know what I'm saying? I can't say I don't like dark-skinned girls. I can say I prefer light-skinned girls, but this particular dark-skinned girl is not because she dark-skinned, it's because of something else with this particular person. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know what I'm saying? Oh, I like this particular light-skinned girl because of this particular reason, not just because
Skin
she's
tone.
light-skinned,
Yeah.
Yeah, not just because of her skin tone, So, yeah.
Yeah, and I agree too. Like when we begin to start basing skin tone off of somebody's when we use their skin tone to determine or to assess their character, to assess their intelligence, to assess their career aspirations, to assess different things like that, then what we are doing is just another version of white supremacy and racism, because they use our skin tone to designate qualities such as being ignorant, being being criminal, having criminal inclinations. So when we begin to start doing that, we may not say dark-skinned girl still or light-skinned girl still. What we are doing is we're still doing that same thing. And skin tone is not what gives somebody their character. Like I mentioned, when we did a colorism event here in our city, it made me think about, as we was leading up to it and preparing, there was when I was a teenager, this young sister, not a sister about my age, you know, I made an advance toward it, and she gave me her number. But what was interesting, she said, "Oh, you, excuse my language," she's like, "Oh, you one of them light skinned niggas, you're gonna break my heart." And I just like, oh, it just, you know, I was like, you know, laugh, said something to keep it moving. But that was her mindset. So I was gonna break her heart just because I was light skinned. And I consider myself light skinned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right. How do you believe gender intersects with colorism?
How gender is with
Yeah,
color?
gender.
Intersects colorism. Colorism.
Yeah. So if I would answer, my answer to how gender intersects with colorism is that, like, okay, in a general sense, that we're talking about like with jobs, like prison sentences, stuff like that. You have that like with jobs, jobs are more likely to hire a lighter skinned black male over a darker skinned black male when controlled for stuff like education level and resumes. I mean, like resume style. That's been found. Um, but like in the dating sense, you have that dark skinned black men are preferred, but dark skinned black women are not preferred. You have that light skinned black women are preferred, but light skinned black men aren't necessarily preferred. And you have that like dark skin in men. I mean, dark skin is associated with like masculinity. You have light skin associated with femininity, no matter if it's a girl or a boy, man or woman. Um, so that's how I feel like colorism intersects with gender because it depends on because if you're a light skinned person, period, you do have privilege in our society as far as like with a lot of stuff like they get sentenced lighter just period. But it's still depending on different things. Light skinned black males get stigmatized in dating, but the women not so much. So that's how I think it intersects.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought about how does it intersect because um, it seems like they're still making their decision just on the light skin, and we just live in a world where, like to me, and from my experience and from my study and observation of things, all of these isms, be it from classism, uh, racism, feminine, not feminism, but sexism. And I mean,
Yeah.
all of those isms are off this same tree of white supremacy. It's about wanting to elevate yourself over somebody else for a given reason. So then when race wasn't enough, then we got to start using economics. When economics wasn't enough, we got to start using education. When education wasn't enough, now we got to start using your agenda, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stems from me, it stems from that foundation, that the foundational ideology of white supremacy, just to feel like you're better than everybody. Because think about how like when they were also oppressing black people, they were also oppressing their own women. Where they women had the own women who gave birth to their children, who fed them and took care of them, had to fight for the right to vote as well. You know,
Yeah.
so that's why when I listen to people like Minister Farrakhan, he talks about these things. That ideology has damaged the world wherever it touched white supremacy, and you see it.
Yeah, perfectly. It's basically what he said is it's the white masculine figure that's trying to paint the world in his image. That white European figure that's trying to paint the world in his image, basically. And he won't stop. I say he, but I mean them, white supremacists, the white supremacy ideology that they're trying to spread, it won't stop until they see the world look like them. And then I want to see how they what's the next objective, you know. So because gender, it really doesn't, I mean, how they intersect colorism and gender, really no intersection. I mean, because if you're lighter, you're going to get treated better. If you're darker, you're going to get treated worse, no matter the gender.
You wouldn't say like in dating, darker skinned women are treated worse than darker skinned men?
No, I think they're both treated.
50% out of 500 women, 50% of them prefer dark skinned black men. 21% of them, hold on, I'll pull up the exact thing. So dark skinned black men do not have the same dating experience as dark skinned black women, like at all. So that's mostly where the question stems from. But so it's okay. So from my study of 500 women and 500 men, 50% of women prefer dark-skinned black men, and 24% of women prefer light-skinned black men. As far as girls and women, 46.6 of people who date women prefer light-skinned women, and 21% of people who prefer women prefer dark-skinned women. So there is a difference between dating for dark-skinned women and dark-skinned men, because dark-skinned men are preferred. They're like the symbol of like masculinity. They're the symbol of like just blackness, and both light and dark-skinned women, mostly from what I see, prefer dark-skinned men. But it's not the same for dark-skinned women. That like now what you said is completely true as far as like dark-skinned people, period, are stigmatized and are treated poorly. Specifically to point out, like with dating, it's not the same experience. It's not the same treatment.
I wonder, because think about this too, in regards to what were the age ranges of those people who took that survey?
For the boys and men, okay, for the people who prefer men, 62% of them were 19 plus. And for the people who prefer women, 61% of them were 19 plus. So, I thought the same thing at first. Oh, maybe it's just like younger people that feel that way. But, it's not. Like from my other research I've done, just there is a preference for darker skinned black men. Just period.
Because one of the things that come to mind is like, I think we witnessed a shift from light-skinned men being preferred to dark-skinned men now being.
Yeah, that's definitely a shift for dark.
You think about like after, and I remember the movie, and right around this time when I began to start seeing this, I remember the movie, oh man, New Jack City.
Mm-hmm.
The movie New Jack City when y'all cameras kind of stopped, but remember the movies in New Jack City when Nino Brown, I think he hit Chris Williams in the head with a bottle or did something, and he said, "I ain't like your pretty ass or light skinned ass anyway." And you start seeing like Wesley Snipes he was like the actor of that time, He was even a little bit larger than Denzel Washington at that time. And you begin to start hearing more people talk about dark-skinned men being attractive. Then Boys in the Hood came out with Morris Chestnut. And then you start hearing the comedians start making the joke saying that dark-skinned men are women. I mean, dark-skinned men are
light skin.
So they started saying we taking out dark-skinned men are now getting some shine and getting some favor. So I think through periods you begin to start seeing it, and it's all also determined by media, whatever is being put up before us. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever is being put up before us, that's what we begin to start saying that which is popular, and they have the ability to do that. But I am seeing now, I'm starting to see like there's starting to be a growth amongst our people where we're growing in consciousness. Now we don't have to wait for the news media or some magazine to connect us to some of our great scholars and great freedom fighters. We can, on a push of a button on our phone, on a laptop, we can get on a computer and listen to lectures by Minister Farrakhan. We can listen to lectures by Malcolm X, Dr. Jeffries, and all of these black scholars. What's our sister? She's passed, Dr. Cress Welsing, right? So our people are getting direct access to this, and now they're starting to grow, and we're starting to love ourselves more. So we're starting to begin to start seeing that now we're becoming more conscious about this colorism and begin to start doing things to start like addressing it.
And just to, I guess, add to your study, what you were saying, how it's harder for dark-skinned women to date than dark-skinned men. I guess I can see that because, I mean, in relationships, women want a man that can provide and protect them. And whatever society and the media paints as the strongest man out of light-skinned man, dark-skinned man, white man, black man, whatever, that's the one that they're going to want to choose. They're going to want to mate with. You know what I'm saying? And men or whatever, you know, we're going to want a more submissive woman, you know, and the way that black women are portrayed in the media and across the world, y'all are shown as being feisty or with the resting bitch face, always got an attitude, or da 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 da, you know, and it's shown more so on dark skinned women, just like when you brought up Martin with Pam, you know, she was always fighting with Martin. Gina was just like, yeah, okay, but you know, so
Right.
kind of stems from that.
Okay. All right. So, do you believe that we already talked about this about if colorism was institutionalized? Like, do you think it affects? Because some people, when you say something about colorism, they just think you're talking about dating, and that it doesn't really go past dating. A lot of people will reduce colorism to dating purposes, even though it's like a whole, you know, other thing. So, yeah, do you think it's institutionalized? Does it affect like socioeconomic status, etc.?
I definitely believe in it. And they've done studies to show like we already know there's unfair sentencing practices amongst between blacks and whites. But in my researching about colorism, it came out where there's unfair. You see that discrepancy between lighter skinned blacks and darker skinned blacks.
It is.
Darker skinned blacks end up getting more time. But what? And this is why it's so important because I got to keep beating this horse, and I'm not going to even call it a dead horse because it's alive and it's running. This horse of white supremacy. Because as people, if we don't realize what started this, if we don't understand the root and the seed of it, we'll begin to start blaming and attacking and fighting ourselves. But see, like you said, sister, earlier, even when they're not present and when it's just us, they still prefer to see somebody that looks closer to them than looks opposite of them. And remember, for those who are watching, I would encourage you to go and pick up Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's book called The ISIS Paper. And she said that until her teacher told her, until we understand white supremacy, we'll never understand racism and this whole society we live in. And what she said was that she said, according to her research, that there is an internal fear that they have of black people of any hue, but especially of the darker hue, because we represent genetic annihilation to them.
Yeah.
So she said that as a result, they try to get rid of us. So she was talking about how their white supremacy, it infiltrated even their little games. Like, look at the pool of bullets. The game is over after the white ball knocks out all of the other balls of color, and the last ball it knocks out is the black ball. You see what I'm saying? You look at in regards to how we pass it down. I tell children and people I speak to all the time, like Halloween is coming up next month. And people say stuff like this to their children. Man, if we want the best candy, we got to go to the white neighborhood because they give out the best candy. See, all of that is helping water this seed of colorism and all of this other stuff that white is superior and everything else isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, okay. So my next question is, do you have any personal experience, both of you, with colorism or color discrimination, or yeah?
I'll let you go ahead and start that off, bro.
You know, I gave the example. I talked about what the sister told me about.
Right. Right.
And the only other stuff I can think about growing up, where I had an uncle who would say, he would call me a white boy because I was probably the lightest one in our family. But I'm still like, I'm here in the city of New Orleans, brothers and sisters, that here in the city of New Orleans, you see some people that you will swear up and down that they were white, but they're black. And I'm nowhere close to them. You know, like with the Plessy versus Ferguson case, you all familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where Plessy, it was where they intentionally found this black man who could pass for being white. That happened in New Orleans, and they put him on the street on the train car. And as they were coming around, they let him, when they saw his skin color, they allowed him to sit where he needs to sit. But when they looked at the ticket and the ID, they was like, so as a black man, it was like, oh hell no, you got to get up out of here. So I live in a city where you can see people that you would think that they were white, but they're actually black. So, and I'm not that type, as you can see. But my uncle would make fun and say, if you're a white boy, if you was back during the time of Rosa Parks, they'll let you be in the front of the bus. And he used to play like that as a child. He was joking, but as a child, I can kind of remember that kind of negatively impacted me.
Yeah. So first time I guess I dealt with colorism, it's basically I got the talk, I guess, from my mom, from my parents. It's basically like, okay, so since you're darker, you're gonna have to work harder in school. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have to get better grades. You're gonna have to do more than what your lighter counterparts do. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to that, then I got the second talk. The second talk was the authority talk. Basically, you're gonna have to tone down your masculinity to authority figures like the police or your boss or whoever, because you are of a darker skin tone, and for some reason that makes them a little more antsy than a lighter skin tone. One other one, just with dating, it was weird. It was weird. I don't know. I don't know if this was colorism or just something weird. So I'm kind of a darker brown skin dude, and I made a move on this darker skinned chick, and we were talking for a little bit, got a number, we went out on a date or two, and I don't know if it was the way I dressed or the way I talked or what, because I guess I dress white or whatever. But she was like, no, I don't think this would be a good, that you would fit in with my family type. So I was trying to, I don't know if she thought that because I was dark skinned that I would be like more thuggish or something. You know what I'm saying? That I would be more thuggish, I would be more brute, you know, than I am. I don't know what she was trying, like what she thought, like in her head before she even knew me. But yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point. I've seen in a lot of my like in my study, a lot of women, like when they say they prefer dark skinned men, they'll say, because I know he'll fight for me. Or I know if yeah, I know he'll fight for me. I know, he'll shoot for me. I know stuff like that. I'm like, okay.
But see, that's interesting. Like, he's the dark skinned man, but see how it keeps coming back to this original illness in this country. The dark skinned man will shoot for me. The dark skinned man will fight for me. And what that is connected to is the criminalization of dark skinned men.
It is.
You see what I'm saying? And then when you watch, I'd encourage you to go and check out that episode on
Blackish.
Because
Blackish.
the son who was light skinned, he was saying that it was like, man, you stuff that I do, you say is you consider to be weak, and you attribute it to me being light skinned. You know, and that's the poison that we have to get out of our system as Black people. So that movie Black Panther it was another shot in this war against colorism that helped us go a little bit more down that path of learning to love ourselves. You see what
Yeah,
I'm
I
saying?
agree.
Because it gave so many images of Black people and Black images of powerful. And so, like when I'm on social media, I intentionally share positive, beautiful pictures of Black folks in all shapes and colors, because we have to promote that loving ourselves. And as the Most High Elijah Muhammad said, that in order for us to love ourselves, we have to know ourselves, right? And the more we begin to start knowing ourselves, the more we will love ourselves. So that's why we have to take control of, make it our responsibility to teach our people and our children our real history, and that our history began before slavery. You know, as you look at the different paintings that they call them the Egyptians, but you know, the Egyptians call themselves the Kemites from Kemet. They had various images, colors, and hues of people. And I've never read anything yet in any history about Egypt or ancient Kemet where there was an issue of colorism. That started when we got here in America.
Yeah, that was yeah. There is that expectation for that. So okay. And so my last two questions, they're kind of like one question. No, they're two questions, but I'll just put them in two. Okay. Who is responsible for breaking the cycle of colorism, and do you think it will ever end?
It's like the brother said before, we are Black people. Black people, we're responsible for teaching our children, teaching our brothers and sisters, old folks. We're responsible for ourselves. You know, Black people are waiting for, I don't know, Jesus or something to come save us. Only we can save ourselves. Period. That's it. We have to continue to teach ourselves, and we can't be afraid of pain, because learning about our history, not all of it is kings and queens and great. No, we got to learn about the good stuff and the bad stuff.
Exactly.
And we got to go through that, because change is painful. So that changeover from the way that we're thinking, and that changeover from saying, oh man, everything I taught that I was taught was a lie. Now I have to go back and relearn stuff. Now that I'm 25, it's like, okay. But we have to make that change. And with our children, we got to teach them the truth when the world is trying to just teach them lies. Yeah, that's it.
And just like what brother said, it starts with us. In 2019, we will be foolish as Black people if we're going to look for a solution from colorism to come from the same people that caused the problem. And that's what many of us are doing. So we're looking for, if we think that a special that's going to come on CNN is going to give us the solution, when right after this, right in the middle, right, let's check this out. Right in the middle of watching a special on colorism are commercials that then come out and still promote white is better. So for us to be that's silly. To even be, we can't look for the people that caused the problem and now come and give us a solution to change it. So it's on us. We have to begin to be educated. And I'll say some simple things that we can do. Take them pictures of white Jesus down.
Please.
Take them pictures of the white angels down. You know, we got to sit down, and even if the issue of colorism hasn't come up in our family, we need to sit down with our families, with our children, and begin to start having a discussion. We need to do it with teenagers that we come into contact with. We need to hold our brothers and sisters and our friends and fraternity, our sorrows and fraternity brothers that we're in the fraternity, whatever community that we're in, we need to hold them accountable when they come out and they're doing something that helps to keep colorism alive. and we have to continue to teach. We have to use social media. You know, I know people want to take the selfies and do different things like that, but every once in a while we need to put something that goes against and exposes colorism for what it is, which is a sickness and a byproduct of white supremacy.
Right.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So is there anything anybody would like to add before I go ahead and wrap up? Because that was all of my. Oh well, you guys. I didn't. Okay. Did you guys? Y'all don't think you guys answered? Did y'all think it would end?
Oh, I believe it's going to end. Like for example, let me tell you why I believe it's going to end. And using Donald Trump, think about this in this country. America, for the first time, had an opportunity to make history by electing a white woman president. And in this whole election, they were talking about all the nasty stuff that Donald Trump said and did, yada, yada, yada. And you saw these women talk about how they could not stand him, white women. But when it came time to vote, they voted this man in who had no political experience.
Mm-hmm.
He has questionable business practices. But you know why they did that? Because in them, they see in Donald Trump that he represents a savior to them in regards to the one ideology that has helped kept them in power, which is white supremacy. So it is dying. So you're seeing black folks growing our consciousness. We're becoming some of the most educated, right? There's entrepreneurship. Black women are starting their own businesses. They're coming out with studies that show that black men are some of the most active men in the lives of their children. So it is dying. But this is the thing. We cannot think that we're going to turn on the TV and see them say, hey, black folks are starting to grow. And hey, racism is starting to die. And color, they're not, because they understand that their society is based upon our ignorance. So they have to make us feel like we're losing. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But we have to begin to start saying, like, listen, man, we're getting better. And I close with this point. I heard Minister Farrakhan say this. He said, if a doctor sees somebody who's paralyzed, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The person is paralyzed from the neck down. He says, but doctors and family members would jump with joy if that paralyzed person just wiggled a toe, just moved the finger. A little slight, because they know if they can move one toe, they might be able to move another one, because that's a sign of life. That's a sign of they can be regenerated. And so that's what we have to realize, and we have to applaud every step in the right direction that we see our people actually do.
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah. I think it'll end sooner than later, because I mean, with the rise of social media, everybody has a television in their hands 24/7. So it's like they can't control the news anymore. It's like beforehand, they could control what you see on TV, the commercials you see, what billboards you're seeing. Now we have the power in our hands. We don't have to go through major corporations to push our beliefs, to push our history. So I mean, I think sooner than later, because now with social media, we can see so much Black excellence just every day, every minute.
Okay. All right, y'all. Well, that was good. Okay.
Yes. And we look forward to your research, and I'm gonna connect. Thank you too, brother. What city are you all from?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Both of y'all from South Carolina?
Oh, really?
I'm from South Carolina, but I'm staying in Maryland right now. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. So,
how about you?
I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. All right, sis.
Thank both of you so much. I really enjoyed talking with both of y'all.
Y'all as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, peace.
All right, bye.